And instead I pour the milk. Instead I pour the milk.
What you just heard was the final version of my Pour the Milk. So what you just heard was my final... Fucking hell, I can't do it. So what you just heard was my final version of the Pour the Milk remix contest entry. If you're new to the channel or you've not seen any of the other videos, then you can check out how I made this track from the start. So if you're interested in music production, especially with tech house and house music, because that's what I focus on, then consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. I post a video every week, or I try to post a video every week, just showing you what I'm working on and how I do my thing. The purpose of this channel was that I quite like watching other producers produce, so I thought, why not do it myself? I'm not trying to teach anyone anything, although I do really appreciate how many people have actually got in touch with me asking me questions. But if you have been watching the videos as I've been going through, you would have heard that this song has changed many times. I've gone down a darker route, made that breakdown very, very tension heavy. So I'll just break down what I've actually changed since the last video and what I've done to finalize and master almost. I've only been able to mix and master with my headphones, so I've not been able to jump onto my speakers, unfortunately. The final mix isn't going to be perfect, but I'll show you what I do on the master channel, just to show you a couple of things that I like to do that normally gets me in a decent place. Even though it's not the final mix or master, it's good enough. Nothing's really changed actually, come to think of it, from the last episode in this area. This area I was pretty much happy with in terms of the groove, the bass line, all the nice little fills that I had. What I did struggle with was what the second drop was going to be. I didn't know where I wanted to take it. Originally I did have a smooth kind of Rhodes piano playing, and in the previous, I think it was the previous episode, or it might have been the one before that, I ended up taking that out purely because I felt it was too similar to a track I've just finished, so I wanted to move away, and that's kind of why I ended up at this dark kind of track. Something different from what I've done before. So the main difference is I've included what I've named an ARP. So if we play the actual sample on its own, you'll notice it is a sample. I was going through Splice to try and get some inspiration. I just stumbled across this, so I ended up dropping it in. And instead of trying to like recreate it or try and do something else, it just fit. So I just thought, fuck it, let's use it. It doesn't matter, it's just a sample. I have cut it up just to loop specific parts, and then I've applied a little bit of processing to it. So if I turn all this off, you'll hear how it originally sounded. And with all my processing on. First, a little bit of EQ in, just getting rid of any lows that I didn't need, and also taking out some of the highs. That it was more of a preference thing. There wasn't anything wrong with the mix of it. I just thought I don't want it to sound that bright, so I've lowered some of the highs out of the sound. The next thing I've done, which is almost shaping the sound, is I've added an auto pan every 1/16, and what it's doing is it's getting rid of the reverb basically that was in the original sample, and it's also making it a little bit pluckier. The next is glue compression and utility. So what this is doing is it's actually adding some saturation. So I have the clip turned on, and then I've put the range all the way down, and then the makeup up. So if it's off, it's not actually doing anything at all. It's when you start pushing this makeup, which is the volume, that it gets to a point where it's going to start clipping. It's clipping quite a lot, which is adding a lot of saturation. So then what I've done, I don't want the volume to be so loud, that's why the utility's in there as well. And then what I've actually tried to do is I've tried to match it to the actual volume that it was coming in, so I can actually hear what I have changed. You don't want to be putting the volume up because naturally you're going to think that's going to sound better anyway. So if you bring it back down to what your ears perceive to be the same loudness, then you can hear, if you turn it off and on again, you can hear exactly what's changing and if it's a good change or a bad change. So again, that's it off, that's it on. For me, it just brings the sound out more. The high end is a lot punchier and cuts through the mix more, so that's why I've done it. And then the second thing is just an auto filter, so this doesn't apply in this area. Really simple effect. It's got a 40% resonance. Again, just to help push some of the frequencies through the mix a bit more. Sounds quite dull when it's there's no resonance. And finally on the channel we have other things I've done to the song. So I just taken all the samples that we had in the FX section and just spread them out across the song. Obviously help with transitions, and in terms of processing there is none. There's very little. So there's EQ on some, there's a delay on one thing, kickstart on another, just to add sidechain. I tend to avoid even putting stuff on effects half the time. A lot of the samples I find are just good enough anyway. The only thing I tend to put on them is a bit of sidechaining just to make it fit with the rest of the track. The main thing I worked on really was the bridge and the breakdown. If we have a play at this section, you'll hear what I've done to the bass to try and make it blend with the breakdown. You'll hear there's a reverb tail applied around this section. thought it was a cool effect, and it really helps when it comes down to this transition. So that was a cool little effect. I do also use it over here, again, just to transition out of the main drop into the outro. Cool little effects, simply done with Endless Smile. It is literally the first preset, and obviously there's one knob. It's not difficult. Oh, I forgot to mention I did add a respace. Again, not a lot of processing on this. Just kickstart to add the side chaining and an EQ. Just cutting out some of the frequencies I didn't like and the lows that you don't really hear anyway. What I've done though that's interesting, I've done a pitch bend. I'm also opening the cutoff in Serum, so that's why it's a bit more of the high ends getting involved as well. And that little pitch bend just helped with the build up in general. It was just a very easy change, and it works very nicely.
Instead, I pour the milk.
Another thing that changed was the way this vocal is brought back in around the breakdown. Originally it would just play all the way through. What I've done instead is I used Endless Smile again to add some reverb as you come to the breakdown, and then I'm also filtering it back down as soon as it hits. So that's why you get a bit of silence. Well, not silence, but you get very few elements playing at that time, and it adds so much tension. It makes it feel very dark, like, oh, what's coming next? You've got the string playing one note, you've got the respace playing one note, and then you've just got the vocal over the top, and it just makes everything feel very sinister. And that mixed with the synth, I just thought it sounded so cool.
Instead, I pour the milk.
There's just a couple more changes from the arrangement side of things. Nothing really major to talk about. Wasn't a lot more I did to the song apart from this synth that I added. Maybe rearranged the vocals a little bit and just worked on the transitions from each section. So yeah, that's my remix basically. I'll quickly show you what I've done on the master chain. Not a lot's changed again in terms of these plugins. These are what I have at the start. I use a utility. Oh, that's a good thing actually. Just show you what I did on the breakdown, just to the build up. I can't remember where I got this tip, but it does help with making the drop feel more impactful. So as you're building up here, what's actually happening from this section onwards actually is there is a very, very, very slight decrease in volume. It's actually just going down 1 dB. You don't even notice it really, but what it does is when that drop hits again, it just makes everything just sound so much more impactful. What also helps with that effect is actually, again, still using the utility in Ableton, is actually bringing the stereo width down, so make everything come more to the center of the mix, almost mono. Here we're going down to 58%, and that just helps everything like feel like it's coming in together and then explode with different frequencies all over the show. It just, that's a little trick that I can't remember where I've learned it from. Probably Zen World. Everything that I know is from Zen World. So yeah, that's a little trick I've done in terms of automating something on the master channel. We've got span, which I just used throughout the project just to analyze the frequencies, and then I use the U-lean loudness meter, which I'll get into in a bit because that's related to the maximizer inside of Ozone 8. So I use Ozone 8 a lot, pretty much every track. First off, I want to just say I'm not a mixing or mastering expert, and this is just what I do. Things I've learned, I'm still learning, but this is a decent plugin that I like to use. At the start of a project, I do start with this preset, high detailed compressed, because what I like to do during the mix is everything is mixed around the kick, and the kick in this song, we're at -7.42. Now usually I try to aim for around -6, but with all the processing that I've done and all the little tweaking I've done, we've ended up at 7.42. Let's actually turn that off Ozone 8 and then actually open up Span, you can see here that the track's sitting at -6 dB. Once I'm happy with a arrangement and I'm ready to do like a quick master, in this case anyway, I've not done a proper mix down session, I completely remove everything from the preset, and then the first thing to start with is the Ozone image. What this does is basically allows you to create bands, control the stereo width of each band, if it be you want to push the low end more into mono or you want to give the high end more stereo width. That's what this is for. So the first thing I do, I click learn, and then I play from the loudest part of the song or the most interesting part of the song, and it's gave me these bands. Now you obviously can move these around however you want, and then I just go through and solo each individual band and just listen to how it sounds. So without any effects on it, we have a very little bit of stereo width to this. A lot of the time I do just bring it down into mono. You don't have to have it fully mono, but it is tightening up that sound in that area. The next one, bassy area here, so we do want that to be quite tight. Not fully though. But anyway, that's all I did. Always recommend turning things off and on again as you're playing them. Obviously it's going to sound different because I've got all this stuff on afterwards, but if we listen with the imager on and then I'll turn it off. Tighten up that low end and also give a bit more presence to the high end, so that's decent. The next thing I do is a bit of EQ. There's not much going on here really. I thought at this point when I was going through this that there was too much high end, so I brought it back down just by 1 dB I believe it was, and then I've also brought some of the bassy elements down again. I've also rolled off anything below 40 hertz just because they're not needed. I've also added a little bit of dynamic EQ. Basically this is just bringing down between 400 and 600 hertz every time it reaches the threshold, which is roughly around where the kick is. I just felt like in certain parts the bass was getting a bit too overwhelming and this helped tame it slightly. Next is the dynamics bit. This is similar to the stereo imager where you click learn and it'll give you the bands, and then what I've done, or what this does, is it's basically a compressor for each individual band. And again, all I've done is added very light compression onto the bits that needed it. Even less there. Even less there. Practically none there. You can hear that it just helps tame that kick a lot. Obviously the maximizer is causing it to sound so loud when I've turned it off. So let's do this. So that just helps control the kick again even more. It feels less boomer, it's less noticeable. And then finally we've got the maximizer, which is bringing the volume all the way back up. See, we're actually hitting a red line there, but that's fine. We're actually hitting 0 dB, so those elements are actually going above 0 dB. Instead, we're actually cutting them off. What you can see, it's mainly the clap. Now, this is where you can push this as far as you want until you get to a point where it's like, this is starting to sound shit. I've gotten up to -11 dB, which is fine. You don't want to go too loud anyway. Another thing that I also do is I go to the Uline loudness meter and I aim for around -8 LUFs. The reason I'm aiming for -8 LUF is because that's just typically where a lot of these tech house tracks tend to go. Again, I'm not going to get technical with it because I'm not the person to listen to. For club music, -8's a decent level to go to. And yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, this isn't a decent enough mix purely because I've not been able to listen to it on decent monitors. I've just got these headphones. These are good headphones. They're not bad. I'm sure if someone was to play this on a decent sound system, they'd be able to pick out problems straight away. I might do a video after the deadline, after I've submitted this, because the actual deadline is this Friday. I don't know when I'm going to have time to record a video, so that's why I'm doing it now. But yeah, that's the song. I want to give a shout out to the guys in the Tech House Production Discord. It's a great place to go. It's recently been set up, so I'll leave a link to it in the description if you're interested. Basically what it is it's a Discord chat room where a load of tech house producers are in there, and we share tracks with one another, get feedback, tell each other how to improve a sound. It's just a great place to connect with like-minded producers. No one's a dick in there, not yet anyway. But yeah, shout out to the Discord. Let me know what you think of this song. Personally, I do like it. Someone else is going to blow this out of the park. Someone's going to absolutely nail this. It could be tech house, it could be house, it could be drum and bass. I imagine there's a lot of people entering this, so my expectations of winning are very low. But I've enjoyed it. I'm happy with what I've got. I'll leave a link to it in the description also, the SoundCloud link. Go follow me on SoundCloud. Not sure what the next series is gonna be. I might even do another video based on this track if I end up doing a proper mix down of it, where I can go into a bit more detail on what I've actually done to get the sound even tighter. But if you've got any suggestions for videos, leave them in the comments as well. Basically, tell me what to do with my life.